That is true.
What is true? Hi, Ajay, our Newcastle representative. It's a very rare occasion where a Newcastle fan is actually useful but also important to the context of Premier League title race. So we're really glad
Wow.
to have you.
Ajay left the chat. Go ahead, man. Sorry.
Uh, Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I heard a lot of City fans showed up to Newcastle giving out free croissants and donuts. Mm. Although I don't get it.
Yeah, I must thank all the one of them that turned up. That's one too many, considering it was City. All right. So, in that sense, thank you so much to that person. I'm sure that person's name is Liam Gallagher, right? Who couldn't get his party started in Newcastle for, who couldn't get on
So
stage,
highlight
so at
results
least
of
he turned
the
up to.
weekend belongs to your team, Ajay. So Arsenal's title race seems to be flickering out before it ever really started, and your team Newcastle has played no small part in it. First of all, I remember that you were discussing that this was not a result that surprised you. You were happy, no doubt, with the result, but at the same time, you were not shocked. You were, in fact, kind of expecting it. So, could you please elaborate on
Or a
what?
Newcastle fan and Chelsea fan talking about
All
how
of
it
it.
was a predictable result when there is no Arsenal fan around here. What am I signing
I
myself for?
I'm inclined to believe him, actually. I'm inclined to believe him when he said it was a predictable result.
No, it wasn't. I think it was just sarcastic, right? To be honest, I think I definitely thought that we're going to give it a proper go. My prediction was it's going to be a draw, right? But I couldn't care what this means to the Arsenal team or what that means to their title race, right? It's enough of making it all about the privileged six. It's about Newcastle winning. It's about Eddie Howe keeping his job. It's about Isaac coming back to form. It's about Gordon finding his feet on the right. It's about Joelinton again playing left wing, left back, right back, center back. What do you call it? Center midfield, defensive midfield. It's about his versatility. It's about Bruno Guimaraes showing to the Premier League how good he is. It's about Longstaff proving to the fans that he is capable. It's about Livramento and Hall showing Tuchel that they are in the reckoning. They are ready. And yeah, it's about Eddie Howe just showing, hey, you know, the limitations or the ceilings are not necessarily mine. It's about the squad. So from that standpoint, it's about us. It's about our victory, and I think it's about our celebration. I couldn't really care what it means to Arsenal. In all honesty.
I completely understand coming from a Newcastle fan point, and like you rightfully said, so Joelinton is one player. Recently Pep Guardiola dropped that all-time quotable quote when he said some players are right back, some players are strikers. Rico Lewis is a footballer. I think Joelinton is a much better adaptation to that description which he gave, because Joelinton, who joined Premier League as a goal scorer, then proved to be a pretty average or below average striker, gets reinvented as a proper box to box midfielder, and then he proves his worth across the pitch in different positions. As also, he's incredibly physically strong. He has a footballing intelligence. It's not just because he can play midfield. It's not an easy job to learn, especially at his age, mid 20s. And yeah, Eddie Howe was the one who reinvented him, and Eddie Howe has still continued to show potential. And what a throwback goal, I must add. It was a proper Barclays goal, if I may. I mean, it was not an inverted winger cutting in, linking up play with the midfielder in advanced half space. No, it was a conventional winger, right-footed right winger, flying down the flank, hitting the cross first time into the proper good old center striker who was in the number 9 position, with a bullet header into the back of the goal. It was a throwback vintage Premier League goal that Gordon and Issa created between them. So, how do you see this planning out, Ajay, into the future? The So, do you think Gordon is going to be? You also mentioned that Tuchel is going to be looking at certain players. Gordon will certainly be one of them, alongside Livramento and Hall. And that position, right wing is not exactly a position where England are also short of options. I must even go as far as saying that if Gordon is primarily focusing on the left wing role, that the competition for places is much lower over there, and he might even fancy the starting berth in itself.
I think,
But yeah,
yeah,
at
Gordon
right
will
wing. So how do you?
definitely left wing for England. It is just a makeshift thing that we have asked Gordon to play right wing because we don't have what do you call it, a Premier League quality right winger, right? The options
Mhm.
that the other options that we have are Almiron, Jacob Murphy, who can fit into that role, or Livramento will have to play that advanced role, or Barnes, right? So that being our options, and I want to say that it's just a makeshift option. I'm sure that they're going to go and sign
You
a
don't
right
see
winger.
Gordon there at right wing
No, I
permanently.
think for sure yeah, we'll have to sign a right winger. We've always been wanting to sign a right winger for the last three windows. It's just that this little matter that the Premier League doesn't want us to spend more than 100 million, what do you call it, across 2 years or 3 years. They don't want to sign off on our commercial deals. They don't want to sign off on our trade deals. So from that standpoint, we are hands tied, right? So yes, we definitely have to go and sign. I think Embuemo is one of those players that is being flouted. Semenyo is another. I've just heard a
Hmm.
link that we had scouts, or we are having scouts plan to go and watch Semenyo. So if one of them turn up, then I think we should have what do you call it, a good right back or right winger. And I don't think Gordon will have to play that role any forward.
It's most certainly not a position where you have lack of options in Premier League itself, and many of these players you mentioned might very well be willing or aspiring to join Newcastle as well. For Mbuemo, it is a considerable upgrade to his own aspirations and the club's stature. I can say pretty much the same for Semenyo. Then there is also Kudus potentially. So I do agree that it's probably a matter of time before Newcastle gets the right winger that they have been craving. But yeah, with that said, I think the fullback positions, especially after the Cobham recruits that you've done, it looks sorted
They're not
for
Cobham
when you.
recruits, my friend. You say that, but they were discarded. It's all Eddie Howe's work. Don't try and attach your credit to every
It
player in the
is.
world.
It is still very much,
They, this is
where
a
they taught the fundamentals matter. They started
misappropriation.
the ball around in the
Yeah,
suburbs of London. So
it's like this.
whenever
It,
Livramento does what he
it's like
does,
the
or Low,
politicians. Yeah, it's like the politicians seeking credit. So not
They,
absolutely,
every
absolutely no
every
reason not to.
fruit that falls
shameless.
off the apple is not yours. So yeah, Krish.
Yeah. Um, I have a few things to say about Arsenal. I don't know how long they will consider themselves as title challengers, considering they are 3 points off 10th place to Newcastle after last weekend, while they're nearly double that with actual leaders.
They're
No,
not even
actually,
top four.
yeah,
No, I
they're
think
closer
to
to
be honest,
Newcastle than Liverpool at this point.
yeah, and to be honest, I don't think it means anything at this point in time, right? I think this is going to be one of those seasons where the, the first place teams will be in the it will finish with somewhere just above 80 points. It's not going to be one of those seasons where City is going to score 100 and Liverpool chasing them are going to score 90.
Especially with the especially few factors. I do agree with Ajay, especially Klopp moving away from Liverpool, the competition from the third to the 6-7 berths having increased, and let's not forget the injuries as well. So
Yeah, so from
Rodri
that
being absent puts a massive dent on City's credentials.
yeah, so from that standpoint, if you look at it, it's what 10 games into the season. So Arsenal are already on 68, right? Which means that they have to score another 60 odd points for them to be virtually in the reckoning, right, for the title race. 60 out of 28 games is definitely doable, right? So from that standpoint, I don't think they're out of the race. I think it's going to ebb and flow a lot more. My only worry for Arsenal is this is plan B. What is plan C then? Plan B hasn't worked clearly. What are they going to do with the months or the weeks that they don't have Odegaard, and how are they going to kind of go past this what do you call it, regimented way of, I think Arun put it in one of the other podcasts that I was listening to, regimented way of playing where they're very rigid in how they're building. So they have to find that fluidity in breaking teams down. And I think, to be honest, we found it very easy once in the second half when we shifted from a
Yeah,
4-4-2 to
defending
a 4-5-1.
last.
Yeah, yeah. I think what they tried to do was to kind of create overloads in the middle by asking Partey to come centrally, and also, Havertz tried to play central. All right. So I think from that standpoint, it leaves a lot of questions, but I don't think they're definitely out of the race. I think this thing will ebb and flow, with the Champions League also being, as I want to say, as spread out as it is, as voluminous as it is. 8 games, another 5 more games for all of those teams. Liverpool are just a couple of injuries away. What do you call it? The same goes with City. If they have Rodri or De Bruyne, go through it, or Rodri is already gone for the season. But if they have De Bruyne or someone else, right, pick
Haaland.
up a injury, then it could be a big what do you call it, dip in their form also. So I don't think it's done and dusted. But what it does is it makes for an exciting season.
One
Cross.
part of the reason why I think Chelsea will not, I won't say will, that is a strong word. Chelsea stands a good chance of finishing top four in a Champions League spot is exactly what Ajay said. The competition in terms of the peak performers have kind of narrowly dipped since Klopp's departure. And it's not just Klopp's departure. Liverpool have also lost a core of their very successful attack, and they are also undergoing a minor transition, albeit not as big as the one Newcastle or Chelsea are currently going through. Now,
Yeah, and
factoring in
another.
Champions League, the volume of games, and most importantly, squad depth, I think it will come into play. And this is where I think we are considerably better positioned than a lot of our rivals in and around that, 4 to 7, 8
You're
spot.
probably the best position in the entire world, sir. Because if you look at it, you've spent more money than most people have actually spent building an empire. So,
We've spent more money than many countries' GDPs out there. So yeah, money certainly does factor into it. I mean, there is no denying that. Even if it is it is very much factual. So I mean, I cannot deny it. So the money that is spent is definitely what matters. So you look at our bench, we have Nkunku, Mudrik, again probably not the biggest impact player out there, but still costed what, 80 million. We have Nkunku, we have How Felix, we have Enzo Fernandez, Premier League's most expensive midfielder, coming off the
You
bench.
have the best insurance against the current format that Champions
Yeah,
League.
and weirdly, we don't have any injuries. So last season, despite the fact that we spent a higher amount of money, we had all these players, but James wasn't available, Lavia wasn't available, Nkunku was gone, and even the injuries have been pretty favorable to us. Now, you also consider that we are not in any serious European competition. I mean, no offense to Conference League, but Cole Palmer is not even registered for Conference League. That's how seriously Chelsea are taking it. They're routinely sending their B team and getting results. It's not an important competition. You don't have to focus on other, like other teams have to with Champions League or Europa. So I think it does make
yeah,
it
and I think
considerably
you're doing
easier
a good job.
compared to the
And I
rest.
think you're doing a good. Yeah, I was just going to say that, and you're doing a good job of getting out of these what do you call it, cup competitions also, like how you've lost with us.
Early.
So you have all
We
20
also got
players
out of
available
we
for
also got out of
Nonsense
the one
news.
league.
Carabao Cup pretty early. To
So
be honest, I don't
strategy.
personally complain much about the result. I mean, what mattered more to me than the cup competition, because ultimately, yeah, it might have been a trophy, but we are not a club who has had problems winning cup competitions in the past. We're considerably better than the rest. So I would much rather have that 3 points in Premier League over a two-legged semi-final in Carabao Cup any day. I mean, FA Cup, I might still, take it more seriously. So between the two games against Newcastle,
You
I
get
would say,
a
like,
one
if I'm
shot
going
at
to choose,
silverware every year,
he did win the game that mattered.
despite a million players.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's
since we have already spoken about Chelsea, should we talk about the game? You went to Old Trafford and didn't come back with 3 points. How
It was
embarrassing.
a boring game of football by the standards that we are recently used to. It was chaotic. There was no control. And I'm not singling out Chelsea. I'm saying I'm speaking for both teams. the game was set up to be chaotic. I think Van Nistelrooy made a very conscious choice when he decided that his team would rather, instead of playing the ball, it was a game of duel. So the midfield, I don't know, the number of duels in the first half and the second half was way too high. It was all about contesting second balls and who gets there first. The quality was thoroughly lacking overall from the game, and yeah, we were lucky. I mean, absolutely no doubt about it. Garnacho was our man of the match in the sense the chances that he missed shooting straight at Sanchez or skying it over the bar, those could have been goals on another day. So we were very lucky to escape with the point, I would say. I mean, yeah, we also hit the crossbar once, and we had our couple chances missed. But overall, this is probably a game that we would have lost on probably any other day. And there are not many positives to take away from it. I consider our result against Liverpool, the 2-1 loss, I say it, loss at Anfield, to be much more hopeful from a fan point of view than the 1-1 draw at Old Trafford, because we were bad against a much worse team over there, a team under an interim manager completely struggling. So I'm not at all happy about the way our team performed. I mean, Cole Palmer also again had his moments, but there was no clear-cut chances up front that we could have capitalized on. And the goal that got us the point, I mean, that's not a goal that you can expect to come every single match day out there. That's an outlier. It's a once in I don't know, once in a half yearly goal that Caicedo scored. So I'm very disappointed with the result, and actually I'm happy with the result, but I'm disappointed with the football.
And what about your substitutions? One of the discourse I keep seeing within the Chelsea fan base is how passive Maresca's subs have been lately, especially when it comes.
I'm not angry about Maresca's substitutions, because I think at this point what Maresca needs to focus is on the first team rather than the substitutions. Substitutions, yeah, they do help cater a result or turn the game's momentum in a positive way, but the focus has to be on plan A than a reactive change in game. As much as in game management is important, we have not refined our starting 11 to a level where we start worrying about the substitutions. We have a long way to go. I think our fan base tends to get carried away by the position on the table. I don't blame them. Come on, they're passionate. But yeah, we are not at a stage where we should be worrying about the substitutions that we should be making. For starters, I think Maresca has absolutely nailed it when he's starting Caicedo and Lavia in midfield over Enzo. So the signs are positive. We need to work on our starting 11, and I fully back what Maresca is doing.
Yeah. So hi. Yes, I think one of the things that you're probably overlooking is Maresca is in his second job, right? And his first job in Leicester.
Yeah.
I think one of my very good friends here is a Leicester fan. So I think almost to an extent where he felt okay with not having Maresca at the end of the season was because they got to a great lead
At the start of the season.
In January, and then things started falling because they don't have a plan B, they don't have a plan C. They're very unilateral in how they approach, and I think the directness is easy to play through because you're just
They
waiting
must have
for.
been Kamal fans, bro. Plan B is to make plan A work.
No, but it's all right for you to say it, Chris. But
Right.
when he's talking about, I want to say, competing for the big four, top four. I want to say that Bournemouth is not Bournemouth home and away is not an easy game. Brighton home and away is not an easy game. Brentford home and away is not an easy game. Fulham is not an easy game. Crystal Palace. So there are a lot of fixtures that Chelsea could go into, thinking that they are favourites and could come out unstuck because they don't have a plan B, plan C. It's easy for these and all of these teams that I just mentioned, right, have really good coaches. In Thomas Frank, in what do you call it, in Herzler, in Glasner, they have great coaches, right? So it's easy to get undone by these teams because there's not a plan B or a plan C. So from that
I completely understand the point you're making, Ajay. And in fact, in the earlier half of last season, it looked like Leicester were going to just run away with the title. But yeah, towards the end, they had to fight to get the title and get promoted. So Maresca has been called out, but again, a key point that you mentioned is this is only Maresca's second job. So I think Maresca is well within his rights to take more time out to refine his plan A before he focuses on more in-game changes. And I think as a team that we have, we have the youngest squad in Premier League. We have a lot of players who do not have the experience playing at the top level. Our in-game management is very poor. And the other week, Maresca called out Reece James for lack of leadership. I think it was a very good call out because James has not been vocal when he needed. Gallagher was arguably a much better leader on the pitch for Chelsea last season. So this is a team that needs to get the basics right, and that is what I want to bet my money on. So an in-game change, a much more effective substitution, or a change of formation. Even last game I thought that okay, maybe ditching the 3-4-3 in favor of a more conventional 4-2-3-1 with fullbacks given the license to attack more could have maybe tipped the game slightly in our favor. But then again, the coach thinks it is the right time to invest in his one method, get that fully working, and then move on to the rest. So I would still say that I back that approach. But yeah, his idea is clear. There is a certain sense of monotony in the way we attack and we defend, especially in the way we defend. But
Easy
I
to
would rather focus on improving it than adding more to the arsenal. I would polish my guns instead of buying more bullets.
Yeah, if only it fell in the years of Begali and Boli, right? You say that and then you go and don't, you won't improve. You kind of add to it. You have another 4 players that you buy in January that suddenly becomes
Yeah.
Maresca's problem. So
See, that is again a difference in philosophy. I'm not saying what we are following is right, but I can see what they're trying to do. They're not doing it well, but they are. I mean, we are historically a club who have refused to invest in coaches. We never have. We buy the players, we invest in the players, and we buy coaches who can use these players well. That has always been the case. Chelsea's most successful team of the yesteryears, it was never under any coach. We won the Champions League under no coach. It was a spine. We had Cech in goal, Terry, leader and a brilliant defender at the back, Lampard in the middle, Drogba up front. So it has
I
always
thought you
been
were
a
talking
method that
about.
has.
I thought you were talking about Dennis Weiss, Torre Andre, Flo,
Andre Flo, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank.
Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank came a little later, but I thought you were
Yeah,
talking
and
about
then
that team.
Zola. So again, like at least in the modern era, we have continuously refused to bet on coaches, and we have even treated coaches, not coaches, not your average Joe coaches. We have treated Carlo Ancelotti's and Jose Mourinho's as disposables. So Enzo Maresca is certainly not on the
Stop
most useful.
encouraging toxic manager club relationship
Yeah,
behavior
but see, it
as
has
something to
worked
be
in the
proud of.
past. It has worked in the past. I'm not saying it will again in the future. Times change. But yeah, again, I would certainly say that investing in the young squad, developing these players because there's clearly talent. That is an approach that I believe can pay off not long term in the near
But
future itself.
talk of actually spending a lot, not backing managers, and suddenly finding a good spot with a new manager. Nottingham Forest is also the same. I don't see it as any different to Chelsea, right? And I think
And
it's
they are at third
credit,
right now.
yeah, credit where it's due. To be honest, I was one of those people that looked at Nuno and said, if he stuck with the Bowleys and all of this, his loyalty to players despite them playing badly, they could be going through another bad season. And that he's focused on defensive, what do you call it, uh,
Reinforcement.
solidity in Milinkovic and Murillo,
Yep.
right? Two amazing centre backs. To be honest, looking at it like a Newcastle fan, I think I've mentioned it right at the beginning of the season. Those are the two centre backs that I look at and think, oh, great buys. If my team did it, I will be superb, extremely proud of my team and my recruitment, right? Very good buys, very solid buys. And also 3 players that Newcastle let go for whatever reason in the last year and a half. Not making it about Newcastle, but the fact that these are people that nobody actually gave them hopes on. All right. It is Sells, it is Anderson, it is Wood, and look at the other players that they've made. They're all rejects. They're all people with great prospects, but their teams then
Yeah.
reject them.
Cobham,
It's a team of misfits.
Scarlett. Callum
It's not
Hudson
just
is
Cobham. They have misfits from all over the Premier League. So,
Correct.
I mean, Ajay mentioned Sells. Sells has been probably, I mean, definitely top three and probably top two goalkeepers in the PL this season. I mean, I
Correct.
watched him live last match against Chelsea. He kept the scoreline to what it was. Vinay Palmer, potentially the goal of the season. Incredible goalkeeper. And like he mentioned, the other guys, for example, even Chris Wood, I think was an excellent transfer. He's a proven Premier League striker with an eye for goal, typical number 9, harasses centre backs and brings truckloads of experience. Then another misfit, Callum Hudson-Odoi, failed Chelsea prospect, failed Bayern transfer move. So superb hype. But then again, Hudson-Odoi, if you've been watching his recent performances, he is probably one of the most dangerous wingers on the left when he's cutting in. So he's that cutting in to the box and
Mm,
curling it to the far post. It's always hits. It's all hits, no
yeah.
misses.
So
So his
I want
ball
to say,
delivery has been brilliant.
yeah, I want to say that from that standpoint, right, it's a team of misfits. All of them seem to have, I think there's a lot of team spirit, right? And that
Hunger.
Nottingham Forest, yeah, I think that City
chip
ground
on
is,
the shoulders.
I mean, you
yeah,
look at Anthony Elanga. He was one of Man United's fan favorites during the transitional seasons. He could not make it there, got rejected, moved to Norwich. Hudson-Odoi
yeah,
pretty much the same. Chris Wood. There's a lot of hunger in that team.
yeah. And I want to say from that standpoint, City ground is one of those stadiums. We go there, I think, in the next week or two. So from that standpoint, I think it's not a stadium that you want to go there, right? Because it's very loud. It's one of those old stadiums where the stadium is almost kind of imposing over the ground, right? And the fans are very vocal. So I think from that standpoint, I think they'll always get results at home. But I think it's just one of those teams or one of those stories that you want to really say and look back and say, oh wow. I think I was there when this bunch of misfits, let's just say they qualified for Europe, right? It makes for a great story. It makes for, what do you call it? It's what keeps the Premier League alive. So I think it's a good thing to see. Cool.
And in the other shocking result of the week was Bournemouth beating the champion City. I'm pretty sure Ajay would not suggest to mention that this was a predictable result, but this was a typical game of football that we have seen of late. The template is the same. The team on the ascendancy, the so-called favorite, the superior team, holds the ball against the underdog, goes in possession, tries to attack, cannot break the ball. The transitional play is incredible, and they make it count. I mean, if you
It's
look at it, Bournemouth had more shots on target than City, with City's attack, Haaland up front, and all that.
So who do you say held the ball?
I
City?
think City had like 60,
No.
60.
They did.
Yeah, City had possession at the back, but in terms of holding
Yeah,
the ball,
in terms of the, I don't know, field tilt you call it, right? Getting the ball
uh,
in the areas that matter.
so did you see the video that Bournemouth Twitter handle posted this morning? They went like almost like 4 or 5 minutes when City were chasing the game. They went 4 or 5 minutes where they absolutely dominated possession, killed the game,
Mhm.
and then the last for a minute and a half, right? They were doing olays when they were just passing around City, right? Absolute embarrassment that City faced in that game. They, when you say that they held the ball, City only held the ball between the back four and what do you call it?
The
Nunes at the
defensive midfield.
no Nunes at the right. That's how they kind of try to build. And Bournemouth were just like could have scored 3, 4, 5 in the first half. It 2-1 is a result that is so telling of how if you don't have good strikers, then you're bound to have a lower goal scoring thing, right?
Does make up a lot on that gap once he returns. So let's. I mean, City are in no crisis, but again, yeah, the volume of the players, the magnitude of the players that are missing for them. Having Rodri on the hospital bed is not a sight any coach who can choose to play him wants to see.
Yeah. So people talk about this injury crisis, huh? Like it's only the top six teams that suffer it. I think the Arsenal team, when they turned up and they talked about injury crisis, they had Odegaard, all right. They had Calafiori. Who else did they have? Gabriel was a doubt, and they had one or two other players, right? They had like four players that were injured. From our side, Newcastle, who are facing,
Newcastle.
we don't have Trippier. All
Yeah.
right, we don't have Botman. We don't have our second choice. What do you call it? Centre back Lascelles. We don't have our first choice. Apparently, first choice Target, who has been missing for a year. All right, and we don't have a first choice right winger. What are we even talking about?
And this
So,
is not new. I mean, when it comes to
So,
injuries, Newcastle
Ajay,
have been in the dungeon since I don't know last year or something. I've never
yes,
seen your first 11 fully fit and firing.
that's what happens when you have a coach that actually gets the best out of the team. All right, if you ask a team,
I mean, you mean sending players to hospital is getting the best out of the team.
no, in the
In
sense
that
that
matter, Reece James has to be the best player in the league.
no, Reece James doesn't turn up at all for training. Right? At least these players turn up for training, and then it's just the hard yards that they have to put that the intensity that Eddie Howe demands out of them that gets them to kind of have these muscle injuries. Unlike a Reece James, where it's all hereditary health-based issues, which is causing him to
My
have
bro is
injuries
made of glass.
that he is.
I love how Ajay is always about standing up for the little guy, the
I
voice of
am
the
always that, sir.
voiceless.
As much as I stand at 6'3", I'm always all about the little people standing up.
Underdogs.
That's a plug for I don't know
I
who
mean, see, the
in the
funny
gym
thing is the
somewhere.
underdog is literally backed by the biggest monetary powerhouse in the world. It's only a minor EPL FA leash that is keeping them grounded. Once FA cuts that loose, Newcastle are going to be all
Absolutely.
over the planet hounding for players.
This generation's
Literally,
Manchester City.
literally backed by Prince Salman's money. It doesn't get any bigger than that. I mean, you can amass the top three billionaires in the
Yeah,
world,
this guy
and Prince
he has
Salman
like
still has
made the
more
football equivalent
still
of
white
investing.
money.
He invested at Apple when it was $10. He's just waiting for
He
the
is.
stock
He
to rise
is.
up.
He
So
is.
I've actually seen my club play in the championship, Premier League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup.
Not
Uh,
even talking about the Saudi factor. Skipped it.
no, to
No,
the
no,
fact that
he's
when I started
historically.
watching, we have
Yeah, yeah.
gone through two
You said it.
relegations,
Yeah.
right? And this Chelsea team that you're talking about was not even a team when I started watching, right? People would go to retire to Chelsea is the story.
I wouldn't
Which,
know, right? I'm too young to know what Chelsea was before what Chelsea
so when
became.
you're saying yesteryears, I'm really skeptical when you say yesteryears because my yesteryears and your yesteryears are completely different.
Yeah, my yesterdays is what 2005. I would say 2006. That was early days. I did not even have a live subscription to the channel to watch football. It was ESPN highlights.
You still don't. You just asked me last night.
Good stuff. I think
But
if
again,
any,
from a footballing point of view, if Salman at the end of the day he had the choice to pick and he picked a club with, I mean, there's no denying it, heritage with proper ground support. St James Park, no matter they're playing in Champions League, they can be playing in Sunday League. They would still have a packed crowd of 46,000 odd people, big stadium, vociferous crowd.
so the city,
Yeah,
it's
it's a good
56,000
investment,
by the way.
like the Sheikhs have always done.
It's 55,243 on a good day.
55,000. Yeah, it's a big
Uh,
stadium. It's a much bigger
yeah,
stadium than Bridge as well.
yeah. So I want to say this, right? People often forget this. Um, when the UAE owners that now own City, when they came to the UK, the first club that they looked at, the first owner that they spoke to was Mike Ashley. Mike Ashley had two meetings with them. The third meeting, apparently, of all things that had to happen, it was in West London, right? Didn't turn up for that meeting because he wanted an extra 5 million. He kept increasing the
Okay,
price.
for the non-PL fans, this might be a very basic question, but are we supposed to just know who Mike Ashley is?
Oh yeah, Mike
Newcastle
Ashley was
won.
our erstwhile owner,
Oh,
who,
okay.
for lack of a better, this thing we could call him Mr. Scrooge. All right, he didn't spend anything on us. So
Okay, so Mike Ashley was gonna lose the deal
from
over
that
5 million
standpoint,
valuation.
if he had
Just
met
like Mike
if
Ashley
he
did
had
not
met
spend on
the City
Newcastle,
owners,
I think Ajay hasn't spent on his internet connection.
Okay.
good one. What a banger of a tweet. Good one.
Yeah, it's Newcastle
But yeah.
heritage.
Yeah, so I think that is where our story ends. Go on,
Yeah,
Chris.
we never know. Okay, assuming he eventually gave in with the 5 million because Newcastle was so indeed, sold, but we don't know the exact details until Ajay upgrades his connection.
No, but
All
on
right.
on a serious note, once the FA restrictions are lifted, Newcastle they are not going to be staying limited, and Ajay will stop complaining about clubs spending money because Newcastle is cash
Yeah,
strapped.
that's
It's
right.
just it's like putting speed limiters on a Lamborghini. That is the state of financial affairs at Newcastle right now. There's no dearth of money. There's just lack in ability of spending it.
This is gonna be beautiful to watch how Ajay turns up to these streams.
I would wear a white and white with a
White
With
and
the
black.
yeah, shoot a few journalists on the way.
you say that, but let's be honest, right? We are talking about the English Premier League, which was birthed out of the first division, which was birthed out of the war money, where the English whatever, right? These were all money that was siphoned to kind of make sure that there is still community engagement while there was a war going, where England had no business to do whatever they were doing. So if I shoot a few journalists down the way, I would only be hitting, what do you call it, the alphabet A in that dictionary of all of the crimes, war crimes that English country has done, and the Premier League has actually kind of stared.
Uh,
Sports Entertainment Weekly does not endorse or support the views of Ajay and VS, who decided to go on part history, part future.
So from that standpoint, oh, of course, it's not that I'm going to do it, but I'm just saying we have to put it in context when people talk about the Saudi or oil money being blood heavy.
Right.
Please don't forget we are talking of England and all of the war crimes that they did.
See,
So
from a bird's eye point of view, most of the ultra wealth, wherever it lies, has come from some sort of exploitation or some sort of blood.
you
But from
answered
a
all of
more
this.
specific point of view, and again, it is not directly money linked or generated from Saudi. It is again a floating fund. So it is literally extra cash that the sheikhs have that they currently don't need to invest in their country, but they want to invest outside for future growth. Probably in a world where oil is not as in demand as it is right now.
So please don't fill oil in any what do you call it, Reliance or Shell petrol bank in India. Please don't get on Twitter. Please don't use an Apple phone. Please don't use Uber, because they have also invested in all of it. So if you stay true to all of this, then maybe as
No,
football
I
fans,
never said I'd stay true to
Sports
any of it. I'm
Entertainment
just here
Weekly now
criticizing.
offering moral discourses.
Sitting on my
On this
chair
one.
and criticizing is what I do.
Thank you,
I don't
ladies and
believe in
gentlemen. If
principles.
you
I
if
talk
you
about it.
actually stayed for the last 5 minutes of
I
the
mean,
stream,
he conveniently he
I'm
talked about
sorry
Reliance
for
and
you.
Apple. He forgot the fact that I support Chelsea and I started supporting Chelsea in Roman Abramovich era.
I don't have a problem. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to say, if your
Thank
point of
you.
the finger.
Yeah. Good luck getting your 5 minutes back. Anyone who stayed after 32 minutes.
Yeah.
Good
Thank you,
stuff.
folks. Have a good night.